Hi, my name's Dominique Padurano, also known as Dr. P. I'm the founder and president of Crimson Coaching, which provides academic tutoring, test prep, and college counseling to students worldwide. This webinar is called College Tours, planning now, to save time and money later. So my background is as a high school teacher. And so as a high school teacher of history, and especially of 11th graders, I wrote lots of college application letters, college recommendation letters rather, and also watched students as they went off in the spring, usually of their junior year, to visit colleges. And now as a college counselor, I hear about college tours and the anxiety that they provoke among students and families alike. And so part of the reason that I developed this talk was as a way to kind of tell you what you should be doing at each stage of the college tour planning process to make that process a little bit less stressful for you. A lot of people also ask me, why did you name your company Crimson Coaching, that deep red color? As you can see from the mats of the photograph and diploma behind me, which are crimson, they are of my time at Harvard, my diploma from Harvard, and my graduation picture of my class at Harvard. The color of Harvard is crimson, therefore, and what I do is coach students to achieve their full potential. So, Crimson Coaching. Today's agenda, because this is a pre-recorded webinar, obviously I can't take any questions from you, but I am more than happy to take questions later on. And if you would like to email me, I will share my email with you. And before we go any further, I do just want to thank you all for attending and to the library for sponsoring today's talk. So as a Ph.D. in history, that's where the doctor comes from. As a historian, I like to share my sources with my audience and be really open about that. So some of my sources come from having attended a talk by the former undergraduate director of admissions at Harvard, William Fitzsimmons, during my 25th reunion activities up in Cambridge. This happens to be where I lived, which is Dunster House, that little onion-shaped crimson dome. And so some of Fitzsimmons' advice will appear in this talk. Much of it is also professional. As I mentioned, I started my career as a high school teacher. I've taught at places such as Great Neck North High School on Long Island, Scarsdale High School in Westchester, and spent the longest amount of time at Horace Mann School, an independent day school in Riverdale, New York. But of course, my time actually helping students apply to college and fill out the Common App and do all those kinds of things as the head coach of Crimson Coaching really fulfills the biggest part of my experience that I'm talking to you about today. My students have gone on to get accepted to schools like Princeton, Stanford, as well as other schools in the Ivy League, including my alma mater, Harvard, and other liberal arts and state schools throughout the nation. Finally, I like to keep abreast of the latest research in this field. A couple of years ago, Who Gets In and Why? A Year Inside College Admissions came out, written by New York Times journalist Jeffrey Salingo. I absolutely recommend this book that came out in 2020, as well as The Price You Pay for College by Ron Lieber, his colleague who is a personal finance columnist at the New York Times. Both of these are really spend a lot of time reading and taking notes on these books. They will really save you lots of money before you go and spend money on your hotels and flights. And hopefully by listening to this webinar, where I've also incorporated a lot of that research for you. So A lot of times students or parents will ask, when is the best age to start, the student's age to start touring, and why even bother touring, right? A lot of students won't even go to college, to a college until they get accepted. Well, the first reason would be, and the first age might be between 8th and 10th grade. I really think it's a smart idea to think about visiting schools local to you, wherever that is. We here in the suburbs of New York City are really fortunate because we have a large variety of educational institutions right in our doorstep, within our doorstep. Within, say, a 2-hour trip from your home, you can find urban schools, suburban schools, and even rural schools that are large, medium, small, and public-private. I really recommend taking your middle schooler, taking your early high schooler just on a tour, maybe one weekend a month, and try different permutations of each of these categories, maybe an urban, large, private school like NYU versus a suburban, small private school like Sarah Lawrence, for example, in Bronxville, New York. Those are very different types of schools, and it will be good for your early high schooler to have a feeling about what those types of institutions are like. Not that they'll necessarily even apply to NYU or to Sarah Lawrence, but if they know that one versus the other is right for them, they can then be much more targeted in their applications when it comes time in 11th grade to actually start making a college list. When you're touring in 11th grade, I actually recommend, after you have your college list or when it's almost set, start touring your safeties or your likely schools and work your way up, right? If Stanford is your dream school, I will put money down on the fact that you're going to love Stanford because it's a gorgeous school. However, if Stanford is a reach for you, and it's probably a reach for almost everybody, given their very low acceptance rate, if you've got a limited budget, which these days most people do, it's much more important to make sure that you're going to like the safety schools that you're applying to. And if the miracle happens and you do get into Stanford, it's going to be a lot easier for mom and dad to go into their pocket and say, here, go to Palo Alto, take $1,000, go visit your dream school just to make sure after you've already been accepted. After you've applied, obviously, if you are not visiting until April or May, or I should say really April of your senior year, and by the way, it's a very narrow window if you haven't visited any schools, you will usually have to give your deposit by May 1st to secure your spot. Some schools don't let you know until April 1st or thereabouts. So to visit more than one school in only a month makes waiting until you've been accepted a very risky strategy. So I don't advise that. But really, then you're really going to pick the one to see which one is the best for you. So if you're several months out before you're planning your college tour, what should you do? Well, again, depends on who you are and where you are in this process. If your child is in between 8th and 10th grade, try to have an open mind. And I'm recommending this to both parents and kids, especially for parents who really want their child to go to their alma mater. Remember, that might not be the best fit for your child. Also, if you're the kid, you may think you don't want to go to mom and dad's school, but that actually might be a great fit for you. So try to have an open mind about that. I would also try to have by 11th grade at least a draft list of colleges that you may apply to. And if you're interested in learning more about what should go into that draft list, check out on my YouTube Crafting a Balanced College List, because that'll give you the steps on how to do just that. And then if you're in 12th grade, you might want to think about following the next step of instructions, especially if you haven't done what I've recommended in 8th through 11th grade so far. So if you have a draft list already, how can you narrow it down without travel? Well, luckily these days, post-pandemic, you have more options than there used to be pre-pandemic. First of all, you can go onto the school's website and read the college's strategic plans and the president or chancellor's pages. Make sure that you like what they're saying. Take unofficial and official online tours. Lots of different, probably on TikTok now, there are probably thousands of just regular students who give you a regular with their, with their phone, give you an unofficial online tour. But you can also go to a place like Live Campus, where they a website dedicated to that. Follow schools' online student newspapers. That'll give you a sense of what the students are into. If you don't like the things that appear in the student newspaper, maybe that's not the right school for you. Set up a Google News alert for the colleges on your list. Do you like what's coming out about that? Read Inside Higher Ed. This is a free version of the Chronicle of Higher Education, which is kind of like the trade journal for universities and colleges. The Chronicle itself, you need a subscription to, but Inside Higher Ed is actually free, and you can sign up to have it, a digest of important articles sent to you every week. During this preliminary online research phase, you want to do mainly two things. First, if you have a draft of, say, 30 colleges, you shouldn't be applying to 30 colleges. You want to whittle it down to about 12. So you're trying to see, well, which places do I really like what I'm reading about? And also develop a set of questions about those schools that you like to ask while you're on campus itself. So if you're going to need merit aid, you might want to do a little bit extra research before you travel. Visit the college's financial aid pages. Investigate about whether it's need blind. Most schools, except those at the very top tier, schools like Harvard and Princeton and Yale, most schools are not need blind. If it is need blind, meaning by the way, so by the way, let me backtrack. Schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, their admissions is need blind, right? Other schools may have need blind financial aid, which means, even if you get no money according to the FAFSA after you filled out the FAFSA and your parents are expected, the EFC or expected family contribution is the full thing, the college itself might have need blind financial aid, and maybe you can qualify for some sort of scholarships, things like that. You also want to find the college's net price calculator, and what you want to do is Google the name of the school and net price calculator, both within quotes, to find out what the actual tuition is, because many times finding that information on the website is very opaque. Also try to find the college's common data set, which by law is on their website, but again is very difficult to find. You would Google, school X, common data set, and usually that'll take you to it. And you can find out things like what percentage of student need is met, how much money can students generally expect on average, and also check out how many students they retain from one year to another. If lots of students are dropping out after the first or second year, that's not a great metric, right? Because you may have then paid all this money for your freshman and sophomore year, and then you can't get that back. So you really want to make sure that students are being retained. You can also visit outside websites put out primarily by the federal government. Feel free to email me for this list. I have a nice little handout for you of very reputable websites that you can get if that you can go to if you think you're going to need merit aid. So if you're making hotel and travel plans, when should you go and what should you be doing once you get there? This is a great time of year. I'm filming this on January 16th, Martin Luther King Day, 2023. And, it is really a great time to start thinking about, if you're a family of a junior, about making those plans. So what are some things you should be doing? Well, I recommend going when college is in session. You want to try to avoid weekends, final exam period, and summer. A lot of times, especially colleges that have big pre-college programs, meaning programs for high school students, will be filled with students who are not the actual college students who attend that college. You might get a sense of what the buildings look like if you go then, but you won't get a sense of really what the college students who actually attend that school are like. If it's possible, try to just visit one college per day. Make sure that you book a tour with the admissions office, because then they'll know that you've been there. And if you apply there, having shown interest in a college is sometimes advantageous to you during the admissions process. The reason why I say just one college per day is, as you'll see, if you're visiting colleges, say during President's Week or during April break week, spring break week, if you visit 2 or more a day, they all just start to meld together, and it's very difficult to keep the details of them in your mind straight. If they offer them, try to get a dorm stay for your child. The student, your child will get a lot of information about what the college students are like by staying overnight there. And your student, not you, but your student should also be reaching out to faculty, and if they're an athlete, coaches, to arrange visit to classes or team practices, athletic facilities, even music practices, if they're a musician or a singer that he or she might be interested in. I say that your child should be doing this because, again, if mom or dad is doing it, it's not going to sort of look as good, quite frankly, as if your child is doing this him or herself. And then finally, if you do need financial aid, make sure that you're making an appointment with the financial aid office to discuss your situation while you're there, even if you're not sure that you're going to apply. You're going to get valuable experience by speaking with the financial aid officers, and it's just a good habit to get into. So if you are leaving anywhere from tomorrow to next week, think about what you should do or pack, such as confirm your college admissions tour, your dorm stay, your faculty athletic financial aid office visits at each college you're going to go to. Make sure that they're still on. I recommend creating a spreadsheet to record notes on and to store your photos of each college, and make sure you take lots of photos. As they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you'd like my own, I've created sort of a template college visit spreadsheet. Feel free to email me for that. Definitely Bring a camera/phone with a camera and a portable charger, because you want to be taking multiple photos of your visit, and make sure that you also bring questions that you hopefully investigated or came up with during your preliminary investigations. You want to remember appropriate clothing, especially if you're meeting with an admissions officer, financial aid officer, faculty member. You don't have to wear a three-piece suit or a dress, but try not to wear ripped jeans or anything kind of off color in a t-shirt. And even just remember appropriate clothing for weather. I can remember way back when I did my college tour at Harvard, I thought, oh, it's only 300 miles away from where I grew up on Long Island. The weather's not going to be that much different. Boy, was I wrong. I had a mini skirt on, and I needed to buy a pair of sweatpants in the Coop, the school store, in order to just walk around campus because it was so cold and damp when I got there. So once you get onto campus, what should you be doing? Well, as I mentioned, take lots and lots of pictures. Also stop at bulletin boards, kiosks, grab a student newspaper, even if you don't read it until you're in the plane or car ride home. That'll give you lots of information about students there. Don't just talk to the tour guide. Tour guides are often paid by the college or university, whereas a random student, you just stop in the dining hall or on the path, may give you a more unvarnished view of the college itself. Take a moment to consider what the tour guide is showing you and what they're not showing you. Many times the tour guides are instructed to kind of give you the $1 million march, the most manicured places on campus, the cool climbing wall that they have. If they are doing that versus showing you the library or showing you a mental health center, they're clearly communicating some of their values to you. Those may be values that you agree with, and if so, great. But if you're the type of person who wants to look at who wants a library, or who maybe needs a mental health center on campus, and they're not showing you, then that maybe will give you the sense maybe the school is not right for me. Definitely try to attend a class, inspect a dorm room, visit any extra facilities of the type that you might use. So if you're in the band, where's the auditorium? If you're in theater, where's the theater? Things like that. And make sure, even if you show up really kind of last minute, a lot of times people who, for example, go to a city like Boston where there are lots of colleges, they'll say, oh, well, we just decided to visit BC on the fly. Stop in with the admissions office and let them know you're there. Get a name and an email address of an officer so that you can follow up later. Same with financial aid. So once you're back at the hotel room or back at home, you are probably going to collapse and take a moment to relax, or a couple hours to relax. It's very overwhelming because there's all this new stimuli coming at you. I get that. But then after you wake up, try to take notes. And especially try to take notes before you see another college. Because again, if you try to take all your notes at the very end of all your visits, it's going to be very difficult for you to keep the details of each college straight. Record your general impressions. Did the students seem happy? Did they seem stressed out? Note down any follow-up questions that you might have. And then, really importantly, send thank you emails to everyone with whom you visited on that campus. This part you don't have to do right away. You could also do in the car or on the plane ride home. Include any follow-up questions that you had. And if authentic, reiterate how much you enjoyed that visit and how much you would like to attend. So your college tour experience should not end with that plane ride or car ride home. You should be trying to do things even after that tour in order to maximize its value to you. So between 1 and 12 months after your visit, you want to keep in touch with the contacts that you made, even if they are quote unquote just students. Did you publish your chemistry research paper in a journal for high school students? Share that good news with the chemistry professor that you met on campus. Were you elected captain of your volleyball team? Let the college's volleyball coach know. And if you don't have any big news like this, even just check in once every quarter just to say how much you still like the university and how much you would like to attend. It also might be worth noting, this isn't on the PowerPoint itself, that you should start to follow the college that you're interested in on social media. And even if there was nothing big happening in your own life, like a publication or an election, you can always say, oh, hey, I noticed this on your school's Instagram or on your school's LinkedIn, and I found that really interesting. And that'll give the person to whom you're writing a real sense that you are engaged with the life of their school even before you've applied. After this visit, the responses that you get back might also help you to refine your college list down to 3 reaches, 5 targets, and 4 likelies. You're probably not going to like every college that you visited if you started with a list of, say, 30 or 20. And you may not also like all of the responses or lack of responses that you get back from the people that you're writing to. That's going to enable you to cross some of those colleges off your list. So a lot of times students are wondering, oh, I will sort of just decide where I'm going to go after I get accepted. And again, that's fine. But I personally think it's a great idea to be finished with your college list by the end of your junior year, because more and more colleges are filling up to or even more than half the class through the early decision process, right? So if you take a look here, 62% of Barnard's class is being filled with that November 1 application deadline. That's huge. That means that it's that much more difficult to get accepted in the January round. And if you can get done with your college visits by the end of junior year, I personally think you're the type, and I've just seen this anecdotally in the students that I work with, you are more likely to be in that headspace to be ready to apply by November 1st and get in, while it's sometimes, for some schools, like Brown, for instance, it's 3 times easier to get in during the earlier round. Their percentage of students they let in during the early round is 3 times higher than the students they let in during the January round. And so being done with your list by junior year really puts that into, gets you in that headspace to apply early. I do just want to note, however, that a slight difference between early decision, which is usually binding, and early action, which is not a binding commitment to go to that school. If you need to compare financial aid offers from a variety of different schools, then you probably don't want to apply anywhere ED or early decision, because you're then committed to go to that one school that you've applied early to. You could still apply early action as long as the school, their early action agreements allow you to do so. And you want to just read the fine print on the college's admissions page. Some schools will only allow you, for example, to apply early action and only to early to state schools in your state, right? And that's usually for financial reasons. So just make sure you're complying with all of the rules there. So my final thoughts are, whole college admissions process can be really stressful, and college tours can be stressful as well. But if you start planning, a year or more out, the journey to college can be actually really exciting, fun, and filled with memorable experiences when teenagers learn more about themselves and the kind of adults that they want to become. And to be quite frank, that's why I love what I do, helping students apply to college, because it's this time where students are really on the verge of becoming adults and learning so much about themselves. It's really exciting to watch. So to learn more, please feel free to attend any and all of my future webinars. I have lots coming up this late winter and early spring that are all on my classes and workshops page at my website, CrimsonCoaching.com. I also, if you are, a junior or younger, I have college essay and SAT boot camp classes coming up in the very near to somewhat near future. So please feel free to go on there. Those, obviously, I work a lot with students one-on-one, but for students for whom, for budgetary reasons, they can't do that, I'm happy to offer these small group online classes that still help students achieve their goals. If you would like to receive either that college spreadsheet or the list of websites that I mentioned, please feel free to email me at info@crimsoncoaching.com and just tell me which you're interested in getting. I am on Facebook, although I am a little bit remiss. I try to post little notices of my upcoming talks. I don't always. So a better way to get notified about them is if you go to my website here, crimsoncoaching.com, and way up top, you'll see sign up for our monthly newsletter. I do only send the newsletter once a month, and I don't share your email with anybody. And what I have in there was always a short article about something about adolescent education or the college admissions process. And then at the bottom, I have a list of all the talks that I give that month. Usually my newsletter comes out on the 1st or 2nd of the month, and then you can kind of mark your calendar and go to those talks. And then finally, if you are in the market for watching other webinars and you're learning a lot, please do feel free to go to Crimson Coaching's YouTube, where I have lots and lots of pre-recorded videos like this one. And while you're there, please do subscribe. Subscribing is a great way to say thank you for this free content, and it helps my channel to grow. So as I mentioned, unfortunately, I can't take your questions because this is a pre-recorded webinar, of course, but I do just want to say, if you've gotten to this point in the webinar, thank you so much for watching. And if you do have any questions, feel free to email me at info@crimsoncoaching.com, and I'll either answer you, or if I don't know the answer, hopefully be able to point you in the right direction so that you can find an answer on your own. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.